Sometimes the most terrifying monsters are the ones we don't see. They lurk in the shadows, hidden from sight, but their presence is felt in every rustle of leaves, every snap of a twig. These unseen horrors are the stuff of nightmares, the kind that make your skin crawl and your heart race, but we hear them. Deep in the woods where no one dares to go, the sounds are faint at first, almost indistinguishable from the natural noises of the forest. But as you venture deeper, they become more distinct, more menacing. There's a forest in my town that everyone calls the Whispering Woods. It's a place shrouded in mystery and fear, a place where the trees seem to whisper secrets to each other and to anyone brave enough to listen. I've lived here my whole life, and ever since I was a kid, I heard the same warnings. The elders would tell us stories of the woods, of the things that lived there, things that were better left undisturbed. "Don't go into the woods at night, you'll hear them." They'd say it with such conviction, their eyes wide with fear, as if they had seen the horrors themselves. Legend has it that years ago, people started disappearing. It began with a few isolated incidents, but soon the disappearances became more frequent, more alarming. First, it was just a couple of hikers who wandered too far off the trails. They were experienced, knew the woods well, but they never returned. Then it was campers, experienced hunters. They'd leave their tents, their fires still burning, and never return. Their belongings would be found untouched, as if they had simply vanished into thin air. One night, my friend Leo dared me to go into the woods with him. He was always the adventurous one, always looking for the next thrill. He didn't believe in the stories, thought it was all just to keep kids away from the forest at night. He laughed at the idea of ghosts and monsters, said it was all nonsense. I didn't want to go, but I was too proud to back out. I didn't want to be seen as a coward, especially not in front of Leo, so we grabbed our flashlights and headed in. The air was thick with tension, every step we took echoing in the silence. As soon as we got past the first line of trees, we heard it, a faint whisper echoing between the trees. It was almost imperceptible, like the wind, but there was something unsettling about it, a faint whisper echoing between the trees. It seemed to come from all directions, making it impossible to pinpoint its source. At first it sounded like wind, but the whispers started getting clearer. They were soft, almost gentle, but there was an edge to them, a sense of malice. They were calling our names. The sound sent chills down my spine, and I could see the fear in Leo's eyes, though he tried to hide it. Leo laughed it off, but I was starting to panic. My heart was pounding in my chest, and I could feel the sweat on my forehead. I told him we should leave, but he just shook his head and pushed deeper into the forest. He was determined to prove everyone wrong, to show that there was nothing to fear. He was determined to prove everyone wrong. His stubbornness was both admirable and terrifying. As we walked further in, the whispers grew louder, sharper, until it sounded like they were right behind us, breathing down our necks. The air grew colder, and the darkness seemed to close in around us. Then all at once the whispers stopped. The forest was silent. The sudden quiet was almost more terrifying than the whispers. I glanced over at Leo, who looked pale, finally afraid. His bravado had vanished, replaced by a look of sheer terror. We turned to go back, but we couldn't find the path. The trees seemed to have moved. The landscape changed. The trees, the branches, they had shifted, closing around us. It was like the forest itself was alive, trapping us. It was like the forest itself was alive, trapping us. The realization hit me like a punch to the gut. Then I saw it, a shadow, tall and thin, standing in the distance. It was barely visible, but its presence was undeniable. Its eyes, they glowed in the dark like embers. They seemed to pierce through the darkness, locking onto us. It opened its mouth, and the whispers began again, louder, filling my head, my whole body. The sound was overwhelming, like 1,000 voices speaking at once. I tried to scream, but no sound came out. My throat was dry, my voice paralyzed by fear. Leo was frozen too, his eyes wide with terror. We were both trapped, unable to move, unable to escape, and that's when it moved. The shadow seemed to glide through the air, moving with an unnatural grace. It slid closer, like it wasn't walking, but gliding through the air, faster and faster, until... When I woke up, it was morning, and I was lying on the edge of the forest, alone. Leo was gone. They never found him. The search parties combed the woods for days, but there was no trace of him. No one believed me when I tried to explain what happened. They said I was in shock, that I must have lost him in the dark. But I know what I saw. They said I was in shock, that I must have lost him in the dark. But I know what I saw. The memory of that night haunts me. the whispers echoing in my mind. The whispering woods took him, swallowed him whole. The forest claimed him, just like it had claimed so many others before him. And sometimes, on quiet nights, if you listen closely, you can still hear him calling from the forest, trapped with the others who wandered too far. His voice is faint, but it's there, a reminder of the horrors that lurk in the woods. Are you brave enough to enter the whispering woods? The question lingers, daring anyone to test their courage, to face the unknown. But be warned, for the woods are always watching, always waiting.